What's up, everyone? So today we are going to do part 2 of helping you become financially free through real estate in 2026. So just as a quick recap, what we talked about previously was that there are a couple of key systems or steps really that you need to account for in regards to achieving financial freedom through real estate. We talked, and actually I'll break it down on the whiteboard, and then we talked about a couple of core systems if real estate is going to be that path. Well, what does the process look like to actually do it through real estate? So if I pull up the 5 steps real briefly, we had, oh my God, so much notes for you guys. What's up, everyone? I appreciate y'all saying hi as well. Loving the love. I just want to set you guys up with as much success as possible in your real estate investing journey. I mean, that's really it. I mean, I would honestly share that it's primarily in your financial freedom journey. I never really thought of myself as the real estate guy until that's what I implemented to fast track my path to financial freedom. But it's always been about financial freedom, AKA, do I have more money coming in each and every month than what my spending is? Why is that so important? It's because then you get full and total control of your time and you could do literally whatever you care about in life. But to get there, to achieve something in a life that less than 1% of people will ever actually be able to achieve, well, you need to have a clear plan around it. And that's the thing I'm so grateful for, that 7 years ago, I made the decision to start learning about real estate, start saving, and then investing my way towards financial freedom. And then 5 years ago, went all in on the real estate route. And then 3 years ago, went all in on the advanced strategies to then massively fast track my results and my success. I'm going to break all that down for you into a more step-by-step process so that you can ideally do the same thing, but even faster, because you have me to guide you to do it, right? Like it's at least you get some of the tools, resources, and all that stuff to help you do the things that I wish I was able to do when I started out as well. Or like the things I wish I was able to learn. So we talked about the 5 steps last time. So we have, what's the best way to do this? Never really whiteboarded like this. So 1, can we see that? Yeah, you can kind of see that. I'm going to make this big. So 1, define financial freedom life, right? This is your vision. This we talked about is the vision. What kind of lifestyle do you actually want to be living? Let's say 5 years from now. In 5 years from now, what kind of life do you want to live? For me, for example, the lifestyle that I chose to live was time, freedom above everything else. I wanted to enjoy a life in which I could do literally whatever I want, not very expensive. I don't need Maseratis or fancy cars or anything like that. I just need the time to be able to spend with my family, be able to work on my health, work out, walk, run, also have the finances needed to travel, eat great foods, really not think about money at all whatsoever, but also understanding I'm not a very materialistic person, nor is my wife. All we care about is enjoying our time. So what does that look like for you? And what will it cost you is step 2, right? What is that financial goal that's linked to that vision, that lifestyle that you want? So we have our vision. This is the first step. You cannot, well, let me be honest with you. You can achieve the life that you want even without a clear vision, or you can start making progress to that, but it's much more difficult if you don't have a North Star. This is where people say, I want $100,000 a month of cash flow or whatever. They're not really attaching it to anything. It's what is the thing? What is the vision? What is your why that's going to drive you to work harder than other people, right? You want goals that are in the top 1% of people. So what's going to drive you to wake up earlier, work harder, be uncomfortable? What is that vision for you? Like I said, for me, family, health, and experiences, I'll say. Great. What does it cost you for that kind of lifestyle? What will it cost you to feel free? If you don't know, at least replicating, you can track it by replicating your expenses currently right? That's one level of financial freedom, is replicating your current expenses coming in passively. That's financial freedom. You can do it based off your income. Usually, in theory, people have a higher income than their expenses, right? That's how you save. You need income more than expenses. Otherwise, you're getting into debt. Hopefully, that's not you. If it is, we got to clear that piece off. But for the most part, what does that look like? And for me, my goal was, let's replicate X number of expenses. At that time was $7,500 a month. And then it was, let's replicate my income, which at the peak was around $14,000-ish a month, right? So those were my goals. If I could get that passively coming in, I could live the same lifestyle, but have all of my time available to me to do whatever I want, which is, experiences. And actually, I'll say problem solving. That's why I love real estate. And helping. The cool thing is, most of this stuff doesn't cost a lot of money. Experiences cost the most amount of money, but I'm not trying to travel every single day to a foreign country, right? It's like a couple of good vacations, enjoy that, go to a restaurant and not think about the amount of money that I'm spending. They're like, don't decide I'm going to order the chicken over the steak because it's $20 cheaper, right? Like, that's the kind of thing for me. Family time, health, none of that stuff really costs a lot of money. Problem solving for me is real estate investing and educating others, plus helping. This was the life that I wanted to live, and I've been able to execute that in around 5 years because of this process. Great. Next step we talked about was financial freedom math, basically. Reverse engineer the amount of money that you need to achieve this goal, right? If you need more clarity on this, we broke it down during the last session, but I also have an entirely free training, tools, and resources in my free Wealth Through Real Estate school community. So they got an entire training on how to define your financial freedom, what the timeline could look like, how real estate helps you get there. It's got all of these things in there for you already. It's already for free. You can just leverage all that stuff. All right, so the financial freedom math, right? What's the life that you want to live when you're financially free? What's the math that you would need to get there, right? And I mentioned examples. You can go off your expenses. What expenses do you need to cover through your passive income from your portfolio, right? There's the path of stocks. There's the path of there's stocks. There's real estate, right? Those are the two main ones. Obviously, you can do things like crypto and all this other stuff, but it's not really a proven guaranteed path, right? There's not a lot of historical, and don't get me wrong, I'm invested in a variety of assets, but the thing that you can have a lot more control of is in regards to your investing journey is investing in the stock market and or real estate investing. So expenses. So what are your expenses? And let's just say $7,500 a month. That's how much you want to replicate. There you go. You know your financial freedom math is $7,500 a month. Or let's go based off, let's just say your income, which is, let's say 15K a month. I just need some easy examples to make it like more straightforward to do. So this is how much money you would need to cover the life that you want, at least a rough idea, right? Here's my vision. Here's my why. How much money do I need to cover that lifestyle that I want, right? Then a part of this is breaking down reverse engineering based on a couple of assumptions. So the next logical step is for the financial freedom math is assuming, let's just assume you are using my similar investment strategy of investing in co-living real estate, the rent by the room strategy. We're going to go with the most conservative cash flow on that. I don't buy any deals that make less than this. So $1,000 a month of cash flow per co-living investment. So if that's the case, if you have $1K per month cash flow, how many properties would you need to be financially free? So let's say let's do the 15K. 15K. Sorry, it's first time using the whiteboard, so I'm figuring all this out. per month. Oh, green's a terrible color. Let's go blue. So let's say you want $15K per month. I got better lights than this. Let me hit it with some better lights real fast. Let's see how much that helps. All right. Well, I can redo this in a later training. So 15, actually, I am doing a full training on this exact topic next Tuesday, breaking it down into even more detail with slides. But we got, if you want to attend my free webinar where I'm breaking this down and then how I've supercharged my path, here's the link for it. Just register. You can get the recording if you're not available. You'll get a couple tools and resources as well. All that good stuff for you. All right, let's get back to it. All right. So 15K a month is your goal, we'll say, right? And you get 1K per month per co-living property. Okay, so you would need 15 properties to get you 15K a month, which is when you will be financially free. Which is when you'll have enough passive income to cover the vision, the life that you want to be living without having to exchange all your time and energy every single month, right? Or think of the 40 plus hours a week you're putting into your work. Well, imagine just enjoying that time instead, pursuing whatever you actually care about in life. And this is what you'll need to get there. So you have your vision, right? The life that you'll be living. You know how much it'll cost you. And based on the assumption of $1,000 a month of cash flow per co-living deal, you know that you will need 15 properties to get there. The last piece of this to make it a SMART goal is the timeline. Well, let's say you want to do this in 5 years, for example, because the math will be nice. That means you need to do 15 properties divided by 5 years, 3 properties a year. So now you have a very clear path and what's at the end of that path for you. This is the commitment that I made to myself, and while I was active duty military, was constantly focused on still enjoying my life and all that good stuff, but I knew exactly the lifestyle that I wanted. So I was not surprised that before 30 years old, I achieved those goals and got even more than that because I was clear. This is what I'm working for. I'm working to enjoy the entire rest of my life, to be able to spend as much time as I can with family, focus on my health, experiences, and then just do work that I actually care and enjoy about. People ask me, why do I continue to work? Because I enjoy solving problems. Real estate allows me to solve problems, and helping other people allows me to solve problems. Plus, I have this need, I guess, to help other people, right? You can tell by all the freaking free value and education I try to put out there. I knew what was coming at the end of it if I put in this work. Then I clearly knew, okay, how much money would I need to achieve that? How much cash flow would I need to earn? And then reverse engineering how many properties I need, how long, and how many properties I buy per year. So now we're going to clean all this up. We've got the basics. This is kind of a recap of last week. We're going to go into how do you actually get these properties? How do you get real estate to get you there? So let me put it here because this is actually kind of a lot harder to see. So now your goal is red pretty visible? Yes. Goal. We're going to assume that the goal is to live the ideal life that you want, right? But what is the goal for the real estate stuff? So 15K per month through purchasing $15 co-living properties in 5 years. The cool part about that is then you can break it down, because 5 years is freaking forever. My goal was at the time was 5 properties in 5 years, all small multifamily house hacks. That was my goal, but you have to break down to bite-sized chunks. What am I going to do in this next year? Well, we said that. So you're doing 3 properties per year. We're doing 3 properties per year. You're breaking that into bite-sized chunks, and then you will further break that down into months or quarters, months, and then the actual actions you need to be consistently doing throughout that month. And that's what we're going to focus on now, because we've clearly defined your goal and it's going to be tied to real estate. You can apply this to whatever you want. It's the same process. But you need to understand, usually it starts with the why, the math behind achieving your why, and then breaking it down into the overall goal and then into bite-sized chunks of actual actions you need to be taking over and over and over again. So let's clean all this up now. We've got 1 and 2 done for the most part. You can get more value on that in the last training or in Wealth of Real Estate, whole course around that for free for you guys. Great. Here's your goal. Now we're going to get into, you have to buy 3 properties a year. Some of you are already buying real estate. Some of you are buying real estate, but you cannot buy 3 properties a year because you are running out of money, or you don't have the skills to be able to successfully find enough deals or to operate enough properties. Some of you are learning real estate but haven't actually bought a single property. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Real estate investing in general, you don't even know where to start, right? There's 3 real categories, right? Those who are completely new, those that are learning and need to take action, those that are taking action but cannot scale because they're stuck in bottlenecks. If you are already doing this thing super successfully and you're scaling, well, great. I mean, you don't need me for that. You're already doing it, right? So for the other 3 categories, let's talk about what you need to do. So for properties, to acquire real estate properties, you need to have 3 core systems, 3 core buckets that you need to think about. I really think about it, it's more of an upside down triangle when I really think about it. You need deals, you need money, and you need operations. I'm going to break out the full process for you to go from A to Z and show you the respective process steps that fall under each of these, and then the systems that you can do to further benefit each of them, as well as highlight my super investor blueprint, my strategy that allows you to get more money or more cash flow per deal and more wealth building per property, eliminates all of the traditional bottlenecks like running out of money and not having the ability to systematize or operate effectively, or not having enough deal flow. All those things, I'll break that down for you. I feel like I should make this bigger, but I want to keep enough space for you guys for the next part, because this is where it's really going to start from the very beginning. So the very beginning is, if you want deals, you need to know what kind of deals are you looking for. We've already laid it out for the most part, right? You want, at least what I'm going to teach you, is co-living investing. If you don't know what that is or why I recommend it, very simply, you get much more cash flow, much higher cash on cash return, much more wealth building. It's a lot more accessible than any other strategy out there. That's really it's the best financially. There's a lot of those out there, right? There's a lot more of this opportunity out there because we're earlier in this strategy, just like short-term rentals 8 years ago, right? It's more accessible. You have the opportunity to get ahead of the curve compared to everyone else. This is what you're looking for. So let's talk about deals. I'm gonna get down. Yeah, cool. All right, so for deals, it starts with first and foremost is your investment. Can we see this? Investment strategy. And then I'm going to build off each of these and break down each of these as their own categories. Then we have your buy box. Then we have lead generation. Let me make this little triangle a little bit shorter. Yeah, as you guys can tell, I suck at writing. I don't have great handwriting, and it's not been a negative and drawing, and it's not affected my real estate investing journey. So there is hope for you if you suck at drawing and writing. So that's good. Investment strategy, buy box, lead generation, deal filtering. I'm literally giving you guys every single part of my process. Deal filtering, deal analysis, offers, and then that leads into under contract. Now you have deals that are aligned with your investment strategy, that have been analyzed to ensure that they're achieving the results that you want, and you have them under contract. Once you have deals under contract, your operations and your capital raising, the money piece kicks in. So once it's under contract, so we'll start with under contract, and then we'll break each of these down in more detail. Once it's under contract, you have to do due diligence. Due diligence will be broken down shortly, but after diligence, you need to close on the property. You need to project manage it. You need to property manage. And then you need business management. So operations, deals, and then money. Although green sucks, will go blue. Does blue suck too? I think blue sucks too. Is green better? I mean, green in theory for money sounds a lot better. They both suck. Love it. We'll go with green because it's a little bit different. All right. Look at me drawing and writing. Who would have thought? Last, the money, right? The money piece. So we'll call this, right? We said ops. We got this as deals. And then we got green, which is money. Oh, yeah, that's terrible. You need money to start off. You need earnest money deposit. That's to get deals under contract. You need debt / financing. You need entry costs. And then I'm going to add stuff in brackets for my capital raisers out there. We need capital raising. And then we need deal funding. And then we need investor relations, which is if you got someone else's money in there, you got to have a plan for how you're going to communicate things, how you're going to provide returns, all that other stuff. So these are the three core systems: deals, money, operations. To be a full system, you need to assign who's doing what and get it broken down in more detail. But these are the three core systems, and these are the process of each and every system. Well, your investment, we're going to start from the very beginning for deals. Your investment strategy, in my opinion, should be what investment strategy, as quickly and as effectively as possible, gets me my desired results with the least amount of work. Very vague. What is all that corporate speak? What the hell does that mean? That means, how can I buy properties as easily as possible that make me the most amount of money per deal, right? Otherwise, if it's going to take you more work, it's going to take you, well, that's going to take you more work, right? It's less efficient. Or it's going to take you longer. That's not ideal either. Or it's going to earn you less returns. You're going to need more properties. So if you don't have an ideal investment strategy from the beginning, then you're chasing all the wrong things, and you can't build the right buy box unless you have the right investment strategy. You can't generate the right leads unless you have the right buy box based on your investment strategy. So the investment strategy, in my opinion, is fundamental, and that's really the super investor cheat code, is that investment strategy. What is that investment strategy that I love? It's my 3 C's. Can you guys drop in the comments, what are my 3 C's for my investment strategy that you know? What are the 3 C's part of the super investor blueprint? If you don't know, it's great. It's going to be a great learning lesson. And each of these are designed to massively optimize your entire real estate investing journey so that you're buying properties that get you more returns with less effort, and there's actually enough deal flow to justify that. All right, so we're buying co-living rentals. We're buying co-living because we get to buy bigger, better properties in nicer locations that generate us more cash flow and more wealth. And there's a lot of accessibility. There's a lot of deals out there that work for co-living, and there's a lot less competition because less people know about it right now. Same way we bought that Dallas deal where the seller actually paid money to sell it because they were losing money as a long-term rental. They didn't even know or consider that they could operate it as co-living. That same property is generating us over $2,000 a month in cash flow. That's part of the accessibility, is having the right knowledge and information that puts you head and shoulders above other investors right now. You always need some form of competitive advantage. This is one of them, this management strategy of co-living. That's tiny. Next are creative. We focus on creatively financed deals because that means we're buying properties with lower entry costs. We're paying a lower down payment on every investment, which means our returns are higher, but also that money can then go buy more properties. If it costs me half as much money to buy a deal than it would cost you, I can buy twice as many properties as you with that same amount of money. So not only are the returns better, I can leverage that money for more investments to get my goals much more quickly. On top of that, it's not just the down payment that's creatively financed, it's also the interest rates. If my interest rates are lower than if I'm paying 3% interest, you're paying 7%, I can make more deals work. B, I'm going to get much more cash flow. And C, I'm going to pay my debts down faster, right? More is going towards principal, less being wasted on interest because I am buying my properties creatively, right? Because the interest rates are lower. So you get to buy more investments because you're putting less money down, your returns are higher, and you're wasting less on interest, which is further increasing your cash flow and increasing your cash on cash return and allowing you to achieve your goals more quickly. The last piece of that is capital raising. At one point or another, I don't care how much money you have, you are going to run out of your own money before you hit financial freedom. Most people who I talk to, and a lot of people that I talk to, have solid net worth, making solid income. They can maybe buy 1 or 2, maybe in 5 deals using their own money. But the 5 deals won't get you to your $15K a month of cash flow. That'll get you 5 properties, and then what? Are you going to do what every other real estate investor does, or the majority do, which is, okay, well, I will continue earning money at my job, saving $10,000 a year at a time, and then in several years, I'll be able to buy my next one. That is a strategy. If you do that, that's fine. Understand it's a massive bottleneck in your ability to achieve your goals quickly and efficiently. So developing the skill set of raising capital eliminates you not being able to buy great investments because of your lack of money, right? You don't need to do all this stuff. I'm just showing you what the process looks like. Very simply, you just need to have an investment strategy. I'm giving you my super investor investment strategy and the rationale behind it. And then I create a buy box that is very much in alignment with that. Most importantly, it needs to be in alignment with my management strategy. So my buy box for CoLiving is I am looking for properties that are bigger, or first and foremost, it's the location. I want to make sure it's in a location in which CoLiving makes a lot of logical sense. For example, Pad Split, if you have plenty of trainings on this, you can leverage their map to show you where CoLiving currently exists, where there is current demand versus supply of CoLiving rentals, and you can determine which of those markets do you want to own and invest in. I prefer markets that are like medium level, like major cities, but not like California cities or New York or something like that. Somewhere in the middle, those purple cities, the Atlantas, the Charlottes, the various Jacksonville in Florida, Nashville, those types of markets, because I'm getting solid appreciation. My properties are growing in value. The properties are like more quickly. The properties are worth more, so my debts are getting paid down faster, getting more tax benefits, and I'm still getting a ton of cash flow as opposed to trying to buy little rinky-dinky properties in small markets that don't get those wealth benefits, don't get as much wealth benefits, right? So that's a big part of it is location is one, and then property. I'll just put property, but what kind of properties are you looking for? Well, if I'm doing CoLiving, I want properties that have no less than 6 bedrooms in there by the time it's all said and done. Ideally, I've got 7 or 8 bedrooms, and there's no more than 4 people ever sharing a bathroom. So for me, my buy box, what that looks like is I want properties that are ideally no less than 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and 2,000 square feet. Ideally, my preferred is that they're 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom, and 2,000 or more square feet. Because then when I convert the property over, I know I can get it to 8+ bedrooms, maximizing my returns without impacting the quality of life on my tenants that live there. So your buy box is basically simplifying your investment strategy into knowing where you're looking for properties, where you're looking for them, what kind of properties are you looking for, and any other no-goes. I can zoom all this in. I'll even take a photo of this after and share it. For those of you following along, I can imagine it's kind of small. No-goes for me in my buy box, I don't want to deal with properties where there are HOAs. I don't want to deal with someone telling me I cannot operate my property the way that I need to because of an HOA. City regulations, ordinances, understood. But an HOA, no, I don't want to deal with that extra work. It's not worth it when there's so many other properties that don't have HOAs. Another thing is I almost exclusively buy creatively financed deals. So if it's not a creatively financed deal, I really don't want to hear about it. At this point, maybe 1% of my, let's say 5% of my properties are non-creative deals, and I'm still making them creative by the time it's all said and done, but it's more work than it's worth to grow and scale. It's just more operations than is necessary. Great. You have your investment strategy. Your buy box should be in alignment with your investment strategy. Lead generation. Where are you going to get investments that fit your buy box? There's 3 real buckets that can fall into. 1, direct. You can go on Zillow right now and look at properties and talk to agents and make offers on those deals. You can also directly talk to sellers and try to buy their properties, whether it's cash, creative, whatever. You can directly acquire deals by directly talking to sellers and agents to structure those. That's not my favorite strategy anymore, even though you can get the best deals that way and you can target. It takes a lot of time and effort for this phase, as opposed to me focusing on the real thing that matters, which is, in my opinion, this part is the most important, the deal analysis. It's not about getting a million leads. It's about getting the best deals under contract. So we circumvent that by not wasting too much time and effort on all the direct lead gen. 2, You can do referrals, JV. So you can work with newer investors, other investors, people who might have potential opportunities, but they don't know how to fully structure it. You can work with them and collaborate with them. Or you can train agents instead of directly reaching out to an agent for one deal. You can train an agent, you can train an attorney, you can train people who see opportunities, people that want to sell properties, and get them to refer those deals over to you, and you buy it and they get paid. The difference between direct and referrals is direct is you're pretty much reaching out for one single investment that's listed. The referral is establishing a relationship so they continue sending you more deals that are similar to that one. My favorite, and I include it as part of my creative, I'll call it like leverage deal sourcing. That are wholesalers and bird dogs. Why? Because they're already doing 1 and 2 some way, somehow they got deals that were under contract, and all the wholesaler is doing is bringing it to us for us to filter and analyze, or a bird dog is already filtering it for us and we're just analyzing it. And I prefer that because it's not about, if you want to scale, right, or even buy a property, if you want to scale though, you need to understand all of this stuff takes time and effort and energy. So you got to pick and choose where is the most important thing for you to dedicate your time and energy. For example, property management takes time and energy. Is it worth you managing and saving a couple $100 a month of cash flow, or outsourcing that? In my opinion, if you want to actually be financially free through real estate, you're going to have 10, 15 properties. You need to dedicate your time and energy to the things that help you grow your portfolio, not all the mini operational things that do cost you money, do cost you cash flow, but don't actually help you grow and scale, if that makes sense. So buying deals from wholesalers and bird dogs, even though there are fees attached to that, is great because they're filtering a lot of the potential non-motivated sellers and allowing me to be able to buy or more directly analyze deals and see if they're actually going to help me, as opposed to all the work of just finding a potentially motivated seller. So the deal filtering is essentially someone is generating the leads, whether it's you or them. You are filtering your deal based on your buy box. Just because someone presents you something doesn't mean it's worth your time and effort to do deal analysis. If they bring you a deal that is 2-bedroom, 1 bath in a market you don't want to invest in, don't waste your time or energy. It seems obvious to say that, but the reality is I talk to a lot of people who are spending too much time and energy on all the wrong potential investments. Why? They're analyzing deals that will never even hit their investment buy box or in their investment strategy. Why? Because A, they didn't do the fundamental piece. They don't have an investment strategy based on what they're actually looking to accomplish. They don't have a buy box that is based on their investment strategy. So they're wasting a ton of time and energy looking and analyzing deals without having the foundational piece. You need the foundation set so that you actually know, is this a property that I want? Is the location I want to invest in? Is this going to hit the returns that I want? People spend so much time and energy on this, or even worse, putting deals under contract without the deal analysis, without setting their buy box and their investment strategy first and foremost. That's the reason why I've been able to scale so much more quickly than the majority, because it's based on actual processes. And I don't know if I mentioned this, I'm a chemical engineer by trade. So processes and systems are my thing above everything else, right? That's my thing by trade, is that going through this kind of stuff. But if you saw in reality what mine looks like, this is a simplified version. It gets even crazier because there's a lot of nuance and all that, but this is the overall process to help you guys out. The process and the 3 systems they fall under and why they're all relevant. Let's see if I can. No. All right. Let's get a little bit more light there. Whatever. You can't see the ops, but there's ops there. So have an investment strategy. You don't have to create an investment strategy. Just find one that is in alignment with what you want to do, and make sure it's as scalable to your goals that you want, right? The difference between buying one single property, which is this process, really the process of buying one single property is putting something under contract, closing on it, and then operating it. But one single property, unless it's done well, will not actually push you towards your financial freedom goals, let alone it will not allow you to scale. More importantly, it will not allow you to scale to the actual portfolio size that you need to be financially free, right? Because if every one property is 1K. We need to do this process 15 times to get to 15,000, right? So you need to understand this process to be able to do it over and over again. Understand as you grow and scale your portfolio, there's going to be more and more operational work, especially with this phase, that's not scalable. So you might be able to brute force your way, like I did early on, through this process by doing all of it yourself, but then you will burn out like I did myself as well, and understand that I could not scale to the portfolio size that I needed to have the financial freedom that I wanted, which is why I had to shift my strategy in the way I was getting deals, who was doing what parts of the business. I don't need to do property management. I can outsource that. I don't need to do all the financials. I can outsource that. Understanding all that kind of stuff to allow you to scale. It's very different to talk about buying a single deal, even though this is the process, and being able to build a portfolio to financial freedom, which typically is 10 plus properties. If you're doing, 2 to 5 properties is all you need, you might get away with brute forcing this entire thing. But if you want $10,000 or more of cash flow, you need to understand that you cannot brute force, just do all the dirty work for every single part of this inefficiently to get to that portfolio size that you need to fully be financially free. All right, deal filtering. Hits your buy box goals, right? Location's right, property's right, doesn't hit the no-goes. This is your filtering to then decide what should you analyze. Analyze the deal to say, returns. Are the returns there? Cash flow and cash on cash return. If you don't know, I've got full trainings on all of this stuff as well. Deal analysis, but also breaking down what each of these terms are. Cash flow, very simply, is how much money am I going to make each month after all my expenses are paid and I have reserves set aside. Income minus expenses minus reserves is your cash flow. That's what you're left over with. That is this $1,000 a month, right? That's what that is. Your cash on cash return is essentially telling you how hard is your initial investment working for you. Cash on cash return is your annual cash flow. So let's say this 1K, so 12K annual, right? So $12,000 or $1,000 a month divided by your entry cost. How much it took you to acquire the property, get it rent ready, and then the carrying costs for that period as well. That is your cash on cash return. What that means is, like I said, how hard is your money working for you? The higher cash on cash return, the better the deal is. And if you're trying to raise capital, the easier it's going to be to raise capital because the deal is better. But when you split the returns with someone else, they're also getting solid returns, right? So you really need high cash on cash return properties. If you guys need questions about that, let me know, right? Everyone wants a benchmark and all that. I'll tell you, the majority of investors that I talk to at traditional type of real estate events, conferences, all that kind of stuff, online forums, they're happy right now with $100 a month of cash flow. They're happy with just barely 1% or 2% of cash on cash return. They just want to be in the game. That's freaking crazy. You're spending time, money, and energy on shitty properties, hoping that it appreciates and you pay down the debt and eventually it cash flows. When in reality, what we're doing, what we're still doing every single freaking day, month over month over month for the last several years, is buying properties, generating us $1,000+ a month of cash flow easily. I gave you the example of the $2,000. We have one that we're looking at right now at $3,000 of cash flow and cash on cash returns of 15% or higher. Very different than what the majority are doing right now. And that's why they are struggling. That's why they are so focused on the federal interest rate getting cut. And now that it's 0.25% lower, maybe deals will work for me. Great. Like, let them be stuck in that. That's where this investment strategy breaks all those bottlenecks. I don't care what the market is doing. I don't care what interest rates are doing. I don't care about tariffs. I don't care about those things. I don't care about even how much money I am earning through a job because I've developed the skill set of raising capital. We are breaking all the bottlenecks that prevent most people from acquiring deals and or scaling their portfolio. Each of this has been designed to break each of the common bottlenecks people have, which is not getting good enough deals, right? Creative and co-living, not being able to scale fast enough, primarily because of traditional debt versus creative financing, and then running out of their own money to buy deals, aka capital raising. All of it is extremely intentional, and I had to basically build this from the ground up when I was starting, so I knew that my path was logical. Yes, I had to improve it over time, but that's how we get here, and that's why I get to give you guys the shortcut for yourselves. Great. For great deals, you make offers, right? You just make an offer on great deals, right? They hit all your returns. You make an offer. Doesn't mean every deal is going to be put under contract. Every great offer is not going to get accepted. Great. You've got a deal under contract that hits your ideal returns and is based on your buy box. Location, property size, all that stuff, it's great. You already know, because you have a process, you already know it's going to be exactly what you're looking for and push you towards your financial freedom goals. And it's already been made super like a phenomenal deal in general because of the fact that you have the right investment strategy to start off, right? Because your investment strategy could be short-term rentals. It could be long-term. You could buy properties traditionally. You could use your own money, all that stuff. These three are the maximized of the strategy, the debt, and the funding of the deals, right? This is already maximizing management, acquisition / debt, and how you're going to fund these deals. It's already built there. If you want to copy it, go for it. That's why I shared it all. I want you guys to copy and succeed in your real estate investment journey. If you don't want to, great. That's up to you. This is your personal finance. That's for you to do. Great. Your deal system. The thing is that once you set up your investment strategy and buy box, this is pretty much a one-time thing that you then iterate or you improve or adjust as needed. But you set this right, and then all you're doing over and over again is the lead gen, deal filtering, deal analysis, offers under contract. For every single new deal you want to buy, you're just going through this process over and over again, aka why it's a system. You're just going through this over and over again for every single deal that you want to buy. This is how you get deals on a flywheel coming in over and over again. Next is the operations. There are two parts of operations. There's the operations while you're under contract, right, through closing. And then there's the actual property operations, which are post-closing. So pre-closing, a transaction coordinator can help you with a lot of this stuff. But you need to understand, once it's under contract, you need to do your due diligence. If you are estimating renovations and furnishings and all that other stuff in here, you're estimating your entry cost based on renovations. And let me actually do the money, and then we'll get to the ops. I think the money will be more logical than the ops. So EMD, if you put a deal under contract, you have to submit earnest money deposit. Basically, you put it under contract, you've got to submit 500, 1,000, 5,000, whatever it is, to put that deal under contract. Well, that money needs to come from somewhere, right? You need to have a plan for that. Is it from you or is it from someone else? The debt and financing, this is basically, are you taking out new loans? Are you buying creatively? I could say cash and all that, but that's illogical for the majority of people. The debt and financing is the majority of the cost for buying the property. You buy a $400,000 property, we'll assume you're going to do a new DSCR loan with a 25% down payment. So the down payment, which is 25%, equals $100K. Okay, so that's the down payment for this property. This entry cost, and I'll explain that shortly. And I have tons of videos on that too. So it's all laid out for you step by step on Wealth of Real Estate. And I'll be going over it in more detail next week during the webinar. But then the loan on this property is the remaining 75%, which is that $300,000, right? And if you're buying creatively and it's a $10,000 down payment, the $390,000 is financed, whether it's seller financing, whether it's taken over subject to, whether it's the combination, whether it's traditional loan plus seller financing, whatever. It really depends on what your strategy is. The reason why I like creative financing is because I get to buy properties with much lower down payments, right? And obviously lower interest rates, and I don't have to deal with freaking banks. If you try to get new loans, you know the hassle of submitting every single document. It's a pain in the butt. The loan, this is your debt or financing. So you need to figure out how are you going to finance this property, right? If it's already creatively financed, great. If it's a property you're finding and you're going to buy it traditionally, you need a new loan on that property. That's that. Then you have your entry costs, which is the part that you are raising capital for. Your entry cost has a variety of, there's a variety of things, but it's basically, think of it in 3 categories. Your entry costs are acquisitions, rent ready, and reserves. When we're talking about raising money, we're talking about raising money for the entry cost to acquire, get the property rent ready, and have reserves set aside for the property. The acquisitions accounts for things like the down payment that we talked about here, right? The down payment, which is typically one of the largest costs when it comes to buying a property. The acquisitions cost, cash the seller, cash the agent, there's a wholesaler, if there's a bird dog, if the seller's behind on their mortgage, those are arrears, and the closing costs on the property. So just because you take out a new loan, there's also closing costs that are not accounted for here on the debt. I mean, you can roll it into the debt sometimes, but overly nuanced. The closing costs on new debt is much more expensive than creatively financed. Buying a property subject to or seller finance has a lot less closing costs for that loan than to buy the property than taking out a whole new loan, which has much higher closing costs. That's another financial benefit of creative over traditional. The scalability, the lower cost, the lower down payment, the lower return, or the lower interest rates, all those are massive benefits. Hence why it's one of the most important, it's one of the 3 core things of my investment strategy. Okay, the rent ready costs are the cost for basically the project management, which is it's going to cost money to renovate. You're going to have to renovate, and this is co-living, right? So you're going to convert it, you're going to furnish it, and you're going to have carrying costs, right? That is all put into this rent ready. You need money to renovate the property. You need money, if you're going from a 4-bed, 3-bath to an 8-bed, 3-bath, you're going to need that money to convert those 4 bedrooms over, to create 4 bedrooms out of the common areas. If you're gonna furnish the property for co-living, you need the money to furnish the property. The carrying costs are the costs it's going to take. You're going to have to pay the mortgage, the utilities, all those costs while your property is getting renovated, furnished. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have all these things you're still paying. Those are your carrying costs. The amount of money that you're spending during the project management phase before your property is listed and profitable. That's your carrying cost. All 3 of those are in the rent ready bucket. And reserves are if you want to start your property with a little extra wiggle room and you are raising money for the property, you want to have some reserves set aside. I like at least 5, maybe 10K, at least covering my carrying costs, plus a couple grand on top of that, just in case it takes a little bit more to renovate or furnish, or takes a little bit longer to renovate or furnish or to get the property fully listed. That's where the reserves kick in. Those are your entry costs. For entry cost, for co-living, to give you a rough idea why capital raising is so important, right? To get 15 properties that generate you $15,000 a month, you need to fund 15 entry costs, not 15 $400,000 purchases, because a lot of that's going to be debt, right? There's going to be financing, whether it's creative, traditional, whatever. You need to be able to fund the entry costs. On average, for co-living, depending on how you're buying deals, it's going to be between $100,000 to $150,000 total entry cost. So entry costs on average, can you still see this? Kind of. 100K to 150, actually, yeah. 150K. That's to buy it, to get it rent ready, right? Acquisitions, rent ready, and reserves, between $100,000 to $150,000. And that's using creative financing, right? That's assuming an acquisition cost of around $50,000-ish all in. Then you got another $50,000-ish depending on the level of renovations and rent ready costs, and then some money for reserves. It really depends on how much it costs to acquire the deal, the level of renovations you're doing, and the reserves. I like to minimize my entry cost to maximize my cash on cash return, because the only way to maximize your cash on cash return is to increase the cash flow, increase the income, or lower the expenses, which is only so much you can do there. You do that through creative financing in particular and co-living, and you lower the entry cost. Both of those increase your cash on cash return. So the lower I can get this, the higher my cash on cash return for a property that was going to perform the same anyway. If it's going to make me this much income every single month, it's going to make me this much cash flow every single month, the lower I get my entry cost, the better. That's why I like to buy properties creatively financed to lower my down payments on the acquisitions. That's why I like to do rent conversions that are low cost conversions. I don't like to do huge renovations, full gut rehabs, new developments, all that stuff. That's a ton of money being put into that deal, plus a ton of extra risk. I like to buy properties where it's already a nice, ready to go property for the most part. All we're doing is we're converting the rooms, the living rooms, the dining rooms, the office into bedrooms, right? That is a much lower cost of conversion than building a whole addition or fully gut renovating a whole property. So if you want to build this $15K a month in cash flow and you need 15 properties, let's go on the lowest end, which is a $100,000 entry, right? And that's assuming creative. If you went traditional just on the same $400,000 deal, just the down payment is $100,000. Then you got all the other costs on top of that as well. Hence why I like creative over traditional. It's not just that I get much lower interest rates. This $100,000 up front means I need an extra $50,000 to $100,000 entry cost. So instead of buying properties for $100,000, I'm putting in $200,000+ to buy the same property traditionally versus creative. All right. So to do this, to get this $15K a month, or to buy these 15 properties, assuming $100,000, you're going to need $1.5 million to build this portfolio. That's what I mean by your money is your bottleneck. You're going to run out at some point. I talked to a guy the other day. He's got $1.5 million. I said, shoot, you could literally get this done pretty much almost immediately. Like, you're good. But the majority of us don't have that much money. For my $25-ish million portfolio, I had to put in $6 million to buy that in entry cost. Well, it wasn't my money. If it was my own money, it would have taken me, I never made $150,000 a year. But if I made $150,000 a year and saved every single penny of that and invested in my real estate portfolio, it would have taken 40 years of earnings and 100% savings and investing to have had the $6 million of entry cost to own my $25 million portfolio. That's not really logical. A, I didn't make that much. B, you can't save every single dollar that you make. And C, to do that over 40 years is insane when I've been able to accomplish it in 5 years because I eliminated one of the key bottlenecks, which is using my own money to buy these deals to lower the entry cost. So it's part strategy that lowers the entry cost, but also the capital raising that allows me to do this over and over and over again. But that's where capital raising is a massive necessity. So now you have a more clear plan. You got the goal to earn $15K a month through purchasing 15 CoLiving properties in 5 years, 3 properties a year. Each one's going to cost you $100K entry per. And that means you're going to need $1.5 million to get there. Understand all the numbers. The thing is, you cannot do this all at one time. You will overwhelm yourself if you think of this all at one time. It's developing the right systems and doing it deal by deal by deal. For me, it was that 5-year goal and saying, I'm going to buy 1 property a year every year for the next 5 years. Well, I massively blew past that, but it's because I had a realistic goal that I was able to accomplish, build my confidence, and then grow and scale from there because I was actively building the right foundation and systems. For you, it might just be buying your very first property and going through this process. 3 properties a year is 1 every 4 months to find, buy, renovate, furnish, and get it rented out. So don't overwhelm yourself, but understand you want the path. Here's the path. No one, I don't think, breaks down the path to this level of detail, but just the way I think. It's more systems minded, more steps and processes. It just made it easier for me to actually do this. All right. Entry cost. And then we're talking about raising capital for the entry cost, right? The deal's got to close. That's the funding. And then investor relations are managing capital partners. We're not going to get into that system, but you need an entire system around money, right? Not just the process, but the system and how you're going to maximize your ability to get capital partners, to take care of them, to present deals to them, to fund deals with them, investor, all that. You need a system behind that. Same with deals. Here's the process, but a more defined system, a more automated system allows you to do deals more effectively and efficiently so you can get to this goal of 15K sooner, right? That's the reason why, right? For example, if we did this, not CoLiving, but long-term rentals, and you're getting $100 a month instead of $1,000, you would need 10 times as many properties. So you can still achieve this through long-term rentals, but instead of 15 properties, you'll need 150 properties. And that's where your operations tends to break, because people cannot manage that many properties without hiring. That means you're giving up more and more and more of your cash flow, right? To hire people to help you with the operational piece. The operations, we can get into full detail right now, but basically get deals under contract, right? Do due diligence, inspection, review the report, negotiate based off that, validate your renovation estimates, your furnishing estimates, do all the administrative stuff that you need to set up your LLC, to acquire the property, to do whatever you need to with the title company, transaction coordination, all of that stuff to go from under contract to closing, right? You have that process, and make sure that you're doing it in such a way that you're not shortcutting and setting yourself up for failure, or like not getting an inspection report, not negotiating based off of it. That's your opportunity to make the deal even better and ensure you're not buying a lemon. Close on it. Once you close on the property, project management is you close on it, renovate the property, furnish it, and get it rent ready, get it listed for rental. Property management is, okay, great. You got a property that's ready to go for your strategy. Get it listed, get it filled, and make sure that you're earning more income than you are spending. This is where the majority of people I've seen in investment communities fail. They focus so much on buying deals and using other people's money, they have no operational skills. They don't know how to either do it and or delegate it, which means they bought a bunch of properties that they can now not complete renovations, cannot complete furnishings, or they misled their investors with the deal analysis, where now the properties are not performing well and now they're losing money every month. If you are not able to earn enough money to pay all of your expenses, you are not going to get cash flow. If you are not able to earn enough money to pay all your expenses, you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. And not only are you going to lose that cash flow that you thought you had, but you're going to lose that property foreclosure and not even build the wealth as well. None of this stuff, deals and money, at the end of the day is what you need to buy, but you need operations to cash flow and be financially free. It's not just about buying the deals. At a certain point, people get really good at buying deals using other people's money, especially depending on the investment communities they're part of. Without the operations, you're not actually generating the cash flow and the returns for yourself and your partners. And if you cannot pay your debts, you're not going to be able to cash flow, but you're going to lose that asset. It's going to waste your time, money, and energy up to that point for nothing to show for it. This is the make or break on any investment strategy. But a big part of it is ensuring that you're project managing, property managing, and you have effective business management, right? So like bookkeeping, CPA, all your financial stuff goes in here, as well as LLC. So like LLCs, financial management, whatever. If you don't, if you don't have your operations right, you're going to buy deals, whether it's your money or someone else's money, and you're going to set everyone up for failure. Hence, you're not going to actually achieve your financial freedom goals. You're temporarily had a bunch of properties that you lost and ruined your reputation, screwed everyone over. Does not mean you won't make mistakes in your investing journey. Understand that you will. However, if you do not prioritize your operations and understand the 3 core systems and implement them effectively for leverage and to maximize your time and in your zone of genius, but also ensure that it's being done well, none of this matters at the end of the day. You're just going to lose everything anyway. You did all this shit to lose it all. It sounds like, oh, why would people? Well, I see it all the time with tons of investors. They get very easily, they start focusing on building their brand and getting deals and money. See all these people on social media, they're doing it, but what do they have to show for it once it's all said and done? Nothing, because they let everyone down because they didn't have the right operations. Like I said, you will make mistakes, and that's fine. That's understandable. Don't make huge mistakes. And the way that you minimize your mistakes is having the right process, but also making sure that your deal analysis is super on point. When it comes to property management, if you are estimating you're going to make $200 or let's say $1,000 a month in income or in rental income on that property, but in reality, all you can get is $800, you fudge your numbers to make the deal look better. Great. You bought the property. You misled everyone. You're screwed. Everyone's screwed. And I have nothing to show for it, as opposed to saying, you know what? That wasn't the right deal for me. Instead of saying that deal did not hit my buy box and the returns that I'm looking for, I shouldn't move forward with it. People fudge the numbers, get the deal done, and then are screwed once they're here after wasting all this time, money, and energy to get here. It sounds like crazy. Why do people do that? I don't know. People literally do it over and over again. Like I said, it's one thing to make a mistake and to the numbers show that you make $1,000 a month and now you're making $950. It's another thing if the numbers showed you 800. So I think I can get 1,000, or I think I can forego those expenses, or I think that whatever. It's usually inflating income or foregoing expenses is what leads to these issues, right? That leads to not being able to generate the returns to pay all your expenses, which then the difference is your cash flow. And then you need all that. You need to do that over and over and over again, pay each and every mortgage to build your debt and pay down your debt and build your property's value through appreciation. All right. This was a lot, but this was the core of what I wanted to talk to you guys about. We talked about the 5 steps last time: vision and then reverse engineering your vision to some kind of financial target. We got that simply here. Earn $15K a month to live your vision lifestyle, your ideal lifestyle, through purchasing 15 co-living properties in 5 years, which is going to cost you $1.5 million of entry costs, right? That translates to 3 properties a year that you're buying with an average entry cost of $100,000 per property. That's your goal. That's 1 and 2, right? You want to get more defined or do it for yourself? Great. I've got an entire training series for you in Wealth Through Real Estate, helping you do that in much more detail. Understand this is going to change, and that's fine, right? If you're not open to changing and adapting as the market shifts or whatever, then I don't know what to say. Like, there's part of copying what other people do, but there's also part of you being adaptable and adjusting as needed. Great. So to do this, you need to have the process and the systems. We talked about the 3 core systems. The 2 systems that you need to own properties are deals and money. You get deals and you get money. You can buy a property. To know if it's a great property, you leverage the right system to make sure that they're in alignment with your strategy, with your buy box. You're analyzing it. You're only making offers on deals that make sense for you financially and fit within your buy box. That's how you lower your risk of failure on the deal side. For the money, the failure is going to be, and it's not a failure, but it's going to extend your timeline, is only relying on your own money until it runs out. If you learn the skill set of raising capital, even if you are actively using your own money to start off, that allows you to be able to continue buying properties, not stopping at property 3 because you're out of money, but you can now do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, get all the way to 15, right? That's the money system. It's not just the money needed to do a deal. The system is how are you able to do so without, like, scalably, to be able to do it for the total number of properties that you need to achieve your goals. Said most people don't have $1.5 million, nor will you ever save that amount of money. Even me, who was very diligent and an engineer by trade, Army officer, saved a bunch of my money, it would take me 40 plus years to have earned and saved entirely to build the portfolio that I have today. You don't need the portfolio I have today. You don't need 100 plus co-living. You don't need what I have. You need what you need based on your goals. That's why personal finance is personal to your goals. That's why it's the foundation. That's why your why is so important, and the numbers behind your why is so important to set all this up. Copy my investment strategy if you want. Please, I want you to. I got free trainings for how you can do so. I'm doing a webinar next week so you can do so as well. Speaking of which, let me drop that in here for anyone who wants that. I'll send an email out later. All right. So you got your process for these 3 systems: deals, money, and operations, the process for each of those. And understand that there is more complexity to this, right? For sure. But this is the overall process to go from deals and funding and operations to be successful in real estate investing. This really is what it is. I don't know if anyone else has ever broken it down like this into a step-by-step process. I haven't seen it, and I'm part of lots of communities and education. I haven't seen it laid out like this in particular. And then like why everything, like why the systems and why my investment strategy is based off all this stuff. I think for me, it's easier because I have a core strategy that I'm implementing over and over and over again. I'm not trying to do everything, because if you do everything, you're preventing yourself from being successful in the thing. Do the thing until you achieve your goals, and then focus on whatever you want after, right? The whole point of real estate isn't because I'm passionate about houses and owning houses. If anything, I'd rather not own a bunch of houses, but it's the asset, it's the vehicle that allows me to be financially free, which is what I am passionate about. Why am I passionate about financial freedom? Because then I get to enjoy my life with my family, focused on my health, helping other people, problem solving, doing these experiences. That is why, that is my big why. Not owning a bunch of houses. I never cared to own hundreds of houses. That was not my goal. It's what will I get from those houses? And then my investment strategy is to maximize the returns on my time and per property that we own so I can get there with less properties. All right, and then operations is how you minimize your risk throughout. Because if you don't have operations, you can buy properties, but you're not going to generate the cash flow, or you're going to end up stuck in the project management out of funds. And now what do? Or you're not going to be able to grow and scale your portfolio large enough, or you didn't do enough due diligence and you bought a lemon. All these things is where operations plays in. It's trickled out throughout this entire process, and especially post-closing on your property operations. All right, there's pre-closing and post-closing operations. And the last one I have is, I'm not going to get into it, but it's the business operations, not management operations, that allows you to scale to a lot more properties. That requires some more systems, and you're going to need certain players on your team. I give a ton of that stuff away, and I'll talk more about it during the webinar next week. Feel free to sign up for it. If you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. I will take a picture of this, or maybe even redo it, and then share it with you guys in Wealth Through Real Estate. So if you're not in Wealth Through Real Estate, that's where I'm going to drop this, because I don't know how else to get it to you all. There's the link for my free community, Wealth Through Real Estate, where there's like 5 different free trainings and tools and resources to help you guys out. Plus my super low cost CoLiving community is in there. If you want to learn literally the A to Z process, not just like this, but how to do each and every single one of these for CoLiving. It's $197 a month. It includes multiple live weekly support calls, full A to Z training on every part of this stuff, and a bunch of tools and resources for you. And the whole point of that is to make sure that it is the lowest cost option out there to help you guys in your co-living journey. I want to make sure it's as valuable as possible, but then I can reinvest that earnings into getting you guys more live support and all that. So that being said, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys for, I may cancel the remainder of my live office hours. We'll see, but I will see you guys at the webinar next week, and I will post this in Wealth Through Real Estate. So make sure to join that so you can get it. All right, y'all. Thank you. I hope this has helped you. Oh, duh. The fundamental piece about everything else. None of this shit matters without step 5. And that's extreme ownership. None of this shit matters unless you're willing to put in the work, learn. If you don't understand how to do something, you got to learn it. If you understand how to do it and you're not doing it, you got to do it. If you don't do it, if you don't learn it, you're setting yourself up for failure if you just do it without learning and understanding it. If you learn it but don't do it, you're getting no actual results. You're just you're becoming a smarty pants. Awesome. You have to learn it, understand the process, learn what you're missing, and then do it over and over and over again until you built the portfolio that you want. None of this stuff happens without step 5, which is do the work. Extreme ownership. Only you can lead you and your family to financial freedom. If you don't understand that it is you and your decision to not just learn this stuff, but actually execute, stop wasting time on whatever you might be wasting time on, or you need to develop certain skills, great, do it. Do the thing. If this is something you seriously care about, if within less than 5 years, you want to have full control of your time in your life and have more money than you anticipated, and you want to be able to do whatever you want with your life, you can't just learn it. You got to learn it and do it, and then keep doing it to buy more and more assets to get you to this goal. Whether you're working on your very first one and it's all learning, you've already got a deal, or you've already learned enough, and now you got to start doing the action. Now you got the roadmap. You're already doing the action, but you need to do more of it so you can grow and scale. It's up to you at the end of the day. It doesn't change my life whether you do it or not. It changes your life and your entire financial trajectory. That's what inspires me to keep doing this kind of stuff, because if I can help just a handful of people fully be financially free, that is sick. That is sick to know that I've been able to help people on their journey to financial freedom, and they can now enjoy their life. And more importantly, people that I know that are successful in this stuff, you guys also like to work like me. People say, why aren't you fully retired? Well, I enjoy working as long as it's on my time, on the things that I want to do. So I know a lot of you guys are going to pursue your passions, whatever that looks like after. Most of it's not real estate. Whatever it looks like, you're going to have a positive, beautiful impact on the world once money is not a bottleneck for you. That's incredible to know that I was part of that ripple effect of all the amazingness that you're able to contribute to this world. So with that, 5 steps. Your vision, financial freedom roadmap, right? Like, what is that going to look like? Define it with some numbers, even though it's going to change. Understand the systems and the processes within those systems, and then do the freaking work. If you don't do the work, none of this matters at the end of the day. All right, y'all. Thank you. See y'all next time.